Hey, welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you're doing well. So today we're going to continue our series called Common Questions, where we answer some of the most common questions that I receive from people or from friends or people who come by me that realize that I'm a watch enthusiast. And today the question that I will be answering is Rolex Submariner or Omega Seamaster. This question has been widely debated by so many people, and there are so many sources out there that have given their opinions, but I thought I would run through the way in which I would look at this question, and perhaps it will help you decide which one to go for. This is me running through how I would think about it. This isn't my opinion. I can tell you straight out, if you're looking just for the answer right now, I would prefer the Rolex Submariner, simply because I think I have quite a muted style for the most part, so Rolex Submariner, just simple black Rolex Submariner is a lot better. Also, it has a nice resale value, so that's always great too. But, so obviously when you're looking between a Rolex Submariner and Omega Seamaster, you're looking for a sports watch, preferably in steel, so these two options are the ones that really come up normally. Also, both these are divers, so perhaps you are a diver enthusiast and looking to buy a dive watch. So the way I look at this is basically I would take each watch and I would look at the pros of it and the cons of it, and whichever one has better pros and fewer cons, that's the one that I would decide to go with. So I'll start with the Omega Seamaster. The first is the functionality of the Omega. I'll start with the Omega Seamaster. First, the pros. And the first pro that I think there is about the Omega Seamaster is the functionality. I have met a lot of divers. I'm PADI certified as a diver, and I've met a lot of divers who've used the Omega Seamaster as their diver of choice when diving. This is because it fits really nicely on their wrist. It's not it is an expensive watch, but it's not, an astronomical amount of money that they have to put down on the watch and then take it down into the ocean. So functionality is obviously the best, and I think proven functionality by the people that I've interacted with who have worn this on dives is why I would put the functionality in the pros column. The next pro for an Omega Seamaster is the legibility. When speaking with these divers, and a kind of continuation on the functionality, a lot of them say that the Omega Seamaster is very legible underwater in darker lights, which again helps the functionality of it when they're diving. It helps them to stare at the watch instead of the fishes. But legibility is obviously something that's super important when it comes to diving, and the Omega Seamaster kind of lends itself to that. The next pro, and again similar to the functionality, is the helium escape valve. It's obviously super useful to release the helium that's built up in that watch when resurfacing from your dive. Also, it's just freaking cool to say I've got a helium escape valve on my watch. If someone asks, oh, what does that crown do? It's a pretty cool thing to have. And maybe you don't dive with your Omega Seamaster, and I'm going to assume the majority of you don't dive with the Omega Seamaster, but I think it's super cool that you could say I have a helium escape valve on my watch. Also, the next pro is the style options. I think the range of Omega Seamasters is super broad. You can really explore what types of watches, what type of Seamaster interests you, and find one that matches your styles and preferences and really stands out to you, as opposed to just getting a simple, the same model for all of them. And the last pro is obviously in relation to the Rolex Submariner is the price. It is like more than about half the price of the Rolex Submariner, so you'll be saving a lot of money. Or you can buy two Omega Seamasters if you find two that you really like. So you'll be saving a lot of money by choosing the Omega Seamaster. The cons when it comes to Omega Seamaster, the first is with respect to Rolex. The brand recognition of Omega is not like the brand recognition of Rolex. So if that's something that's important to you and you want people to look at yours and be able to say, oh, I know that company, go with Rolex, because Omega isn't known by the amount of people that know Rolex. It's a very, very well recognized brand, but perhaps not as wide as Rolex. The next con is resale value. This is again in comparison to the Rolex Submariner. The Omega Seamaster doesn't resell for as much or as close to the original price as the Rolex Submariner does. So you're probably looking at losing a little bit of money in comparison to the Rolex Submariner. The next is accuracy. Even though the Omega Seamasters of today are chronometer certified, they're not as accurate and reliable as the Rolex Submariner. Rolex Submariner has the superlative chronometer certification, which is just a little bit better, but either way, you are getting two extremely well built, well run, and very accurate movements if you're deciding between the Omega Seamaster and the Rolex Submariner. The next has to do with legibility. The anti-reflecting coating that's on the crystal of the Omega Seamaster is actually on the top of the crystal, as opposed to on the inside, which means if you end up scratching the crystal at all, some of that anti-reflecting coating is going to come off, which means it reduces the anti-reflective nature of that watch. So that's really not a very practical way of applying it, and that's why I put it in the cons. So onto the Rolex Submariner, and it's kind of just basically the opposites of the cons of the Omega Seamaster. So I'll start with the pros of the Rolex Submariner. The first is obviously the brand recognition. Rolex is an extremely well-known brand by just about everyone on this planet. It's one of the most faked watches on the planet. So you're getting, when you purchase a Rolex Submariner, you're also purchasing that brand recognition and perhaps you'll be very proud of wearing a Rolex Submariner when you have it on your wrist. The next is the resale value. As I said, the Rolex Submariner is going to sell for closer to the purchase price, closer to the purchase price than the Omega Seamaster. So your resale value is going to kind of remain true to what it was purchased for. Again, the next pro is the precision and accuracy. It has that superlative chronometer certification, which means it's more accurate than the Omega Seamaster, even though these are two extremely well built and accurate, very, very accurate timepieces. So the movements, you can't go wrong with either of them. But according to the certification, the Rolex Submariner is a little bit more accurate. And the last pro is obviously that anti-reflecting coating, which is on the inside of the crown. So that means even if you scratch the surface of your crown, you're not going to end up removing any of that. So the anti-reflective coating will remain and stay true to what it was added for. Some of the cons for the Rolex Submariner is the style options. Obviously, you're looking at, when you say Rolex Submariner, you're probably going to get the black bezel, black dial version, which is kind of like their entry-level Rolex Submariner. There isn't as many options as the Omega Seamaster, which means your style options are limited. That can work in your favor, however, if you like to, be a little bit more louder with your clothes. The Rolex Submariner allows you to kind of keep a muted timepiece on your wrist, which can help in some circumstances. And the next is obviously the price. It's more expensive than Omega Seamaster, but that does come at there's a positive to that. Your resale value will remain quite high compared to the Omega Seamaster. So I hope that kind of gives you some pros and cons from my perspective of the two watches. This is the way I would break it down, and for me, there's fewer cons for the Rolex Submariner, so that's probably the option I would pick. It also goes with my aesthetics a little bit more. I hope this helps you with the decision that you're trying to make, and best of luck with purchasing it. I hope you enjoy it. If you are purchasing one of these watches soon, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you've made it this far into the video, would love if you would slap a like on this video. It really does help us out. And if you like the content that we're creating, of course, subscribe to our channel, and we'd love to have you a part of the Life on the Wrist community. And on that note, I hope you guys have a nice rest of your day.